What's good, you guys? It's Djdaniel here, back again once again. And today, people, we are back. Finally! Oh my gosh. You guys, like, literally, you don't understand. It's been, like, a good week. No, it's been 2 weeks since I recorded this. Because I remember recording all of the last episodes, like, before the first one went out. So it's been a good, like, 3 weeks. But we're back. I've been, busy. I haven't wanted to, like, record this. I've been trying to get my voice acting down so I can actually do voices for, like, women and, like, voices for creepy people. And I don't want to have, like, just, like, one voice. I want to, like, make it more interesting. But anyway, you guys, what we're going to start doing, is we're going to start setting a timer. Now, the last episode and the episode before were really, really huge. Really, 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 really huge. And I knew eventually it'd have to come down to where we literally just have to have a timer. Like, we don't have a choice anymore. We literally just have to have a timer. But, what we're gonna do... Wait, what? No. What we're gonna do is we're gonna set a timer for 30 minutes. And it's gonna be 30 minutes from after, so it's gonna be around 30 minutes. We won't always take this much time to explain. I'm just, like, setting the timer now. Sure. And you guys should be able to hear me fine and clearly. I hope so. Anyway, otherwise this will be a failed LP. Probably is a failed LP. You guys probably don't like it. I know there was none last week, so I'm gonna record chapter 3 now, depending on my voice. Actually, I don't have my water. Gosh, no. We might pause the video if I need to get water, but for right now, I think I'm good. Chapter 3, A Strange Guess. And the timer starts now. In the early morning hours, Hannah read at the table by the dim light of dawn. She leaned in close to the pages, chin resting on her folded arms, eyes racing over the world, like chasing butterflies over the hills, to catch as many as she could before going to work. She wondered at how such tales of magic could be contained by mere paper and ink for her to read again and again, which she had. Hannah kept Hannah kept the wick turned low and had to squint to read until the tender light of the new day filled the one room of her family's shabby tenant apartment. With the dawn came noises from the street, wagon wheels cracking and knocking over cobblestones as if the walking city were stretching and cracking its joints. Her 2 younger sisters, twins, clutched each other in the bed Hannah shared with them. She watched their slow breathing, and then she glanced at her parents. Her mother slumbered on her side, and a slight swell that could almost be mistaken for a wrinkle in the dingy blanket. Her father lay on his back, like a mountain rising from a plain, and his eyes were open. That was how it was. Hannah would glance at him from her book, and he would be asleep. The next time she looked, he would be awake, and would wonder how long he had been laying there. "Papa," she whispered. I'm working on it. "Papa," whispered. She crept away from her stories and tiptoed across the room and knelt beside the bed. She took his hand. "Morning," she said, and kissed the knuckle above his wedding band. He smiled, his fingers cold and damp, like twigs on the ground in winter. His hands used to be tough and warm and thick-fingered, and she used to feel safe when they held her. I was reading the story of a girl, she said. She traveled east of... Oh, sorry. She traveled east of the sun and west of the moon to save her prince. And Papa, that I read about... And before that, I read about a cat that wore boots, who... Are you hungry, Papa? He blinked once to say yes. Anna gave his hand a pat and got to her feet. She went to the coal stove, and the heavy iron door groaned as she opened it. She scooped out the previous day's ashes, enveloping herself in a fine gray cloud, and snapped something kindling. I can't read today. Then she arranged the sticks inside the stove and followed that with a few black chunks of coal from a pail that was nearly empty. She struck a match against the iron belly of the stove to light the kindling, and left the stove door open to let the fire suck air. 'Cause fire can't go on without air. It needs air to support it. Then Hannah set the large copper tea kettle to boil, one of the few possessions from their previous life not yet sold to pay for cold or food or rent. I'll watch it. Oh, sorry. I have to think of a different voice. Well, I guess I have to give her the generic voice. I'll watch it, her mother said behind her. You'll be late for work. Oh, Mama, said Hannah. I didn't hear you get up. Her mother glanced at the book left open on the table. I was reading this morning, Hannah said. You've been doing that a lot. I'm worried you're not getting enough sleep. I'm fine, Mama. I know, you always say you are. Creases appeared across her mother's brow. She went to the cupboard and pulled down a coffee tin. It sounded hollow when she took it and taped the sides, but she started into it as if more grinds might appear. I get my wages in a few days, Hannah said. Yes, but they're already spent. The tea kettle whistled. Hannah's sister stirred. It'll be a relief when they're old enough to start school, her mother said, and I can devote the attention to your father that he needs. Hannah looked away from her mother, jaw clenched. She snatched up the book from the table and held it to her chest. I need to leave work. What? Oh, Hannah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean... Hannah shook her head. It's all right. No, it isn't. I know how much you love school. How much you'd love to go back. You're such a smart girl, and... Mama, it's fine. Hannah took the book to the small shelf above their bed. There had once been 7 other books there. She had kept them in alphabetical order, and then she had sold them off for pennies. She bent and kissed her sisters, each one on the cheek. If you're up when I get home tonight, I'll read you a story, she whispered. She went to her father and kissed him on the forehead. See you tonight, Papa. He smiled, and Hannah tried to imagine him telling her the same. She did not want to forget what his voice sounded like. Her mother stood by the door with Hannah's lunch pail in her hand, packed the night before. Have a good day, she said. Really, I didn't mean... You do so much for our family. I'd rather not talk about this. Hannah took the pail and gave her a kiss that touched more air than cheek. Don't forget to turn Papa on his side. I won't. Hannah shut the door and climbed down the stairs. She turned up the narrow street and joined the other laborers on their way to work. The narrow street the narrow street and joined. Oh, gosh darn it! I sound like a broken record. I keep reading the same line. They filed out from the dense alleys and tumbled down buildings like ants from a hole in the ground, fanning out once Baker Street, and the roads opened wide. Hannah nodded to the baker lumbering by, powdered with flour and bent under a huge under a hump of baguettes. Hold on, guys. I'm gonna be right back. Okay, guys. Sorry about that. Don't worry, I did pause the timer, so there's no problem. Yeah. She headed up Baker Street. A short while later, arriving on the square, where the Gilbert Hotel faced the world like a rich man posturing for a portrait. She stood there a moment, shoring herself up for the long day ahead. Then she sighed and went in through the service entrance. The hours trampled her on their way through the day. Before the guests had even taken their breakfast, Miss Wool had scolded her something fierce. Then one of the other maids stole a tip left for Hannah, and she burned herself on a clothes iron. But around midday, Hannah was in one of the linen closets, folding sheets, when she heard someone talking in the hallway just outside the door. She heard Mr. Grumholt's rumbling voice, laying down words that the way a mason lay bricks. She heard the raspy voice of Miss Wool, like feet crunching through dry leaves. Hannah held her breath and put her ear to the door. Okay. So, rumbling voice for Mr. Grumholt. "It must have been on the top floor," said Mr. Grumholt. Then why didn't we find it the first time?" asked Miss Wool. That's the raspy voice. "We missed it somehow. It's there, I'm sure of it. That's where he had his suite." "How old are the hotel floor plans for that section?" "They're recent. The last renovation was only 3 years ago." "The treasure would have been hidden long before that." "Don't you think I know that, woman?" Hannah cringed, and silence followed. Then Miss Wool spoke, her voice low and even. "I don't tolerate that tone from my maids, and I don't tolerate it from you. Mind yourself, Hands." "My apologies. I suggest we meet in my office and look over the plans in case we miss something. Say 3 o'clock?" "It's 3 now." A moment of silence passed, in which Hannah imagined Mr. Grumholt pulling out his gold watch, the one he kept on a heavy chain and checked throughout the day. "No, it isn't," he said. "Miss Wool, your watch is off. See to that. For now, why don't we just go to my office again together?" "Agreed." "Lead the way." The voices faded. Hannah let out a breath and resumed folding, spritzing each sheet with rose water. Treasure, hidden, just like the tale of the 40 thieves from her book. In her mind, she chests of gold coins and silver pendants. She saw jewel-encrusted goblets and combs of the most delicate ivory, lush silks, and heavy brooches, I think, drooping pearl earrings, and necklaces bearing gems the size of robin eggs, diamonds, emeralds, rubies, and uncles. Like the treasures that belonged to the wealthy guests who stayed in the hotel. She had often been tempted to steal from the opulent hotel suites. She would be dusting or polishing, and there would be a ring, a brooch, left so casually on the dresser, almost forgotten. The guests had chests of jewelry. Surely they would not miss this one earring, this one small jewelry. Surely they would not miss this one little earring, this one small jewelry. Surely they would not miss this. This one small trinket that would pay a year's rent. Hannah's family. Hannah shook her head. Those thoughts sent guilt up her inside her cold teeth. She finished the last of the sheets and started on the pillowcases. The closet door opened, and she jumped. Her friend Abigail peeked in. I'm gonna have to do the May voice. Oh my gosh, Hannah, have you seen Miss Wool? Hannah hesitated. No, she set down the linens. Why? Like the new guest on the top floor is asking for her. The one with the tiger? Have you seen it? Abigail slipped into the closet and shut the door. Does she really have a tiger? Do you think she actually travels with spirits? I don't know. Walter said he saw the tiger. Walter? Abigail snorted. Walter would say anything to impress you. Hannah blushed. He's nice, though. I suppose. Abigail took the rose water and sprayed some on her neck. This is Hannah. If Miss Wool smells that on you. You worried, Hannah. Abigail turned with a little bounce and opened the door. If you see Miss Wool, tell her that the tiger lady is looking for her. She shut the door behind her. Hannah sighed. Abigail was nice enough, but she did not understand Abigail's father was a cooper and did all right by his family. They had a small house down on the south of Macaulay Park, and Abigail worked only because she had no interest in school. Hannah finished folding and put the rosewater back on the shelf. Mr. Grumholt and Miss Wool had seemed to be talking about a treasure hidden somewhere in the east wing of the hotel. But what kind of treasure was it? If it was lost, did it belong to anyone? The hotel was supposed to be full of hidden passageways and secret doors. Hannah imagined herself opening one and finding a shimmering mountain of money. She would take it and buy a home and move her family out of tenants. She would hire a doctor to look at every hour of the day, so her mother could finally have some rest. Hannah would take her younger sisters and go back to school. There would be enough food on the table and heaps of coal for the stove, and warm clothes and shoes without any holes in them. Hannah opened the door to the linen closet and bumped right into Miss Wool. It was like running into a thorn bush. Watch where you're going. Hannah, my page just turned. Gosh darn it. What's doing? Hannah curtsied. I'm so sorry, Mrs. Stupid, clumsy girl. The woman snapped. but without her usual force behind her. She seemed preoccupied and kept past Hannah down the hall. She patted her gray hair, which was pulled up loose in an elegant swirl on the top of her head. But then her eyes went to the closet door. She strained her apron over her narrow, bony hips. "How long were you there?" Hannah swallowed. "Not long." Miss Wool's face hardened. "Not long?" "No, only a minute or two." Miss Wool tapped her toe on the carpet, and it cleared her throat. "Ma'am, the nicest on the top floor was looking for you." "Was she? Well, I can't be bothered with that circus sideshow right now. Go and see what she wants. You may be clumsy, but surely you can take care of that much." Hannah dipped another curtsy. "Yes, ma'am." She turned away before Miss Wool could say anything more and hurried down the hallway. She came out on a landing and started up the hotel's main staircase that rose flight upon flight around a central gallery. To the utmost levels, the staircase was under renovation again. A few months ago, masons had broken out the plain white marble and replaced it with dark stone, the brittle color of burnt paper. Hannah thought the new stairs looked beautiful in a stark and dramatic way. But a week ago, Mr. Twine, the hotel owner, had insisted that they be replaced again, this time with pink stone veined with ribbons of gold. She scurried past the masons, careful of her steps around their tools and fresh work, hoping to avoid being noticed, but they looked up at Hannah, and one of them recognized her. He set down his trowel and took off his cap. I'm gonna do like a dopey voice. "How's your father, miss?" She recognized him as well and shored herself up. As good as can be expected, Mr. Cantwell. He speaks often of coming back to work once he regains his strength." Mr. Cantwell nodded. "We'd be glad to have him back. Finest stonemason I ever knew. Your father, finest in the whole city." "Thank you, sir. He says the same of you." Hannah smiled and continued up the stairs. "You tell him there's plenty of his holly leaves around. "I will." There were exactly 62 holly leaves scattered through the hotel. She had searched them out and counted them many times. Her father loved their scrawled shape, and he carved them as a motif signature of his work. They were hiding everywhere, like little secrets left just for her. How much time do we have left? I don't know. 8 minutes. Okay. With each landing, the carpet became more luxurious, patterned like cropped up, sprouting seasonal flower arrangements that scented halls with perfume. Alabaster statues rose up from the corners like ghosts, staring at Hannah with blank eyes. From above the gallery, a domed glass ceiling braided sunlight into rainbows, which fell sparkling over the statues and stage. Hannah reached the top floor and dabbed a bit of sweat from her with her apron. She had never been up here before. She wondered why the wealthiest guests would choose the highest rooms, which required them to climb so far. But she supposed it was like the mansions up in the heights where Mr. Twine lived. Some people just had to be high above everyone else. From a hallway window, Hannah could look out over the hotel gardens, and there was Alice, working in the flower beds. Pointy straw hat wider than her shoulders, seedlings poking out of her apron pockets. Alice was old, older than Mr. Twine. Hannah had never met anyone worked in the hotel who could remember a time that Alice was not old. Alice ignored everyone, but she spoke to her plants, and sometimes she even spoke to Hannah. Hannah paused a moment on the landing before approaching the suite. What if this guest really had a tiger? What if the other rumors were true, that she traveled with spirits of the dead? And what about the treasure? Mr. Grumholt had said it must have been hidden on the top floor. Hannah smoothed her apron. What was that? Hannah smoothed her apron and stepped up to the heavy door of the grand suite. She pulled on the doorbell. No answer. She pulled harder. The door opened, and a tall man filled the opening. He wore a gray robe that brushed the floor, and his long black hair fell to his elbows. He stared down at Hannah with eyes so blue they were almost clear. I think of like a snobbish, like high rich guy. Yes, he said. Hannah took a startled step backward before she remembered her manners. She curtsied. I was sent to see how I could be of service. Where is Miss Wool? She's attending to another matter at the moment, and sent me in her stead. Sorry, I forgot this is olden time. The man frowned. Come in. He opened the door wide and ushered Hannah through the entryway into the drawing room. On the far side of the room, beneath a wild window curtained with lace, a large woman reclined on a chair lounge like an Egyptian princess, but not a beautiful one. The woman might have been attractive under her roundness, but her girth filled up whatever space her beauty might have occupied. She wore a black dress, broached at the neck with an agate cameo, and her hair fell loose around her shoulders. She lifted a silver-handled long net to her face, and the spectacles swelled her eyes within the frames. Miss, I have to think of another voice, a decent voice. I'm a psychic. Miss Wool sent you? Her voice chimed like crystal goblets struck upon a string. Hannah curtsied again. She did, ma'am. Well, then, come closer. Hannah glanced around. Not a tiger or spirit in sight. At the moment it seemed safe. She crossed the room to the couch and bowed her head. I need someone, the woman said. Preferably a young girl on the staff who will be my personal attendant. Can you recommend someone to me? I'm afraid not, ma'am. Why not? I think that's above my place. The woman lowered the spectacles to her lap. And what place would that be? I'm just a maid. Just a maid? But you are still a person, aren't you? Of course, ma'am. Capable of forming opinions. Yes, Hannah looked up. But I've learned that in most cases, it's best just to keep my opinions to myself. The woman laughed. Ha, ha, ha. A tinkling, trembling laugh that would that ever what? Would that everyone were I don't understand this English. What is this? Would that everyone. That's literally what it says. It says, would that everyone were as wise as you. What is your name, child? Hannah? Hannah, I am Madame Constance Bernadette Pomeroy. She said it as if it were a regal title, not a name at all. I'm pleased to make your acquaintance, Madame Pomeroy. A moment of silence followed, filled with the ticking of a grandfather clock. The woman stared at her, not intensely, but it made Hannah uncomfortable. Sit down next to me, child. Sit down, right there. She pointed as the fellow in the gray robe brought up a chair. This gentleman is Yakov. He was a Russian soldier. Madame Pomeroy leaned in. A very dangerous man, mind you. I never really know what he is hiding under that coat. He travels with me as a sort of bodyguard, my own golem. A what? A golem, child, a man made of clay and brought to life by the spells of Jewish rabbis and mystics. Marvelous creations. Like a golem, Yakov lives to serve and protect. But unlike Golem, Yakov will talk from time to time, and he can predict the future. Yakov Well, guys, that was the timer, but just so I know where we are, I'm gonna keep reading. Yakov held a seat for Hannah. I shouldn't, she said. But she was curious and sat down anyway. How does he predict the future? Through dreams and visions. It's his gift. Just as I am given the gift of communion. Communion with the dead. Well, guys, we're going to stop it there for today. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope it's loud enough. If it's not, I'm going to try and fix that and reproduction. I might have to hold it closer to my mouth. It's kind of decently far away. I might actually upload this and see what you guys think. But no, actually, because this is going out next Sunday. So I hope you guys had a happy New Year, even though I'm recording this before New Year. But in the next episode, I think we might just finish the chapter. I don't know how long away the chapter is. I don't know. Look at that in post-production. But yeah, I'd say we're in the next chapter. We're going to just review, just so we're all on the same page. File. So I want to review Giuseppe and Frederick and Hannah all together after finishing chapter 3, which we still have like one chapter. We're on page 36. We still have to go to 44, so it'll probably take us 30 minutes anyway. But anyway, thank you all for checking out the video. I know this went on a little bit long. I hope you guys heard me just fine. Thank you all for checking out the video. You know me, guys, Djdaniel. Bye.